Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare คนHare Krishna So, I was told by some of our young Gopi-like listeners that it was very sad to see how Krishna treated the Gopis. I'm also often asked, why did they become proud? If they were actually advanced, pure devotees, directly exchanging with Krishna, how could they have become proud? So first, I would like to clarify with you the nature of the Gopis' pride. It's very difficult for us to grasp, but their pride and our pride are not the same. Our pride is born from selfishness, that I'm so great. And in their case, their pride was not even a fault, but rather it was a natural characteristic of their ecstatic love for Krishna. Krishna wanted to please all of the gopis at the same time. And therefore, their individual loving pride would create some difficulty in relishing this beautiful rasa dance. At this time, it is also important to be reminded of who Srimati Radharani and the Gopis actually are. They are expansions of Krishna's own pleasure-giving spiritual potency. And everything they do, everything they think, is simply to please Krishna. And they're performing all their activities purely for his happiness, motivated by pure love. So Krishna was not going to neglect them. Rather, he wanted to increase the power of their love by making another spectacular arrangement. After all, the gopis were basically proud of Krishna, so their so-called pride is not a fault. It is an arrangement of Yogamaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yesterday night we heard how Krishna called the gopis to join him in the forest. First, he spoke to them as if he were indifferent. And then he pleased them with his company. But then he disappeared. They could have never ever imagined that he would leave them alone in the forest in this way. At first they were shocked, and then they went and looked for him everywhere. And finally, they began to argue with each other. Like a clever thief, someone has thrown dust in our eyes and stolen our jewel. She wants him to be exclusively hers. Let's find out where she has taken him. They searched madly for Krishna, and they vowed to find him. I will bring him back here to enjoy with us as before. While searching, they thought, actually, although Krishna shows himself, he is invisible. And although he may be touched, he is untouchable. And although we are aware that he is speaking, the material ear cannot hear him. And although he is the lotus of the ear, he is situated far, far away from anyone's ear. After searching for him, they manifest a kind of madness that allowed them to see Krishna in every direction and simultaneously within their hearts. They touched him with their lotus hands, but he did not touch them in return. They embraced Krishna, but he did not embrace them. They smiled at him, but he did not return the smile. Alas, they had no power to find him. Their lives totally uprooted. The gopis' distress exceeded the pain of lemon juice poured into an open wound, or a sword stabbed into the stomach. In their grief, it seemed like darkness had enveloped all the planets, and the earth had cracked in half. Trees dried up. Creepers cried. All the deer and the other animals were burning as if in a forest fire. To keep themselves from giving up their lives, the gopis entered into a state of divine madness, which created some distance between their minds and the pain of separation in their hearts. Like a band of mad women, they searched throughout the forest. Yogamaya, Krishna's Yogamaya, followed behind them invisibly, just like a shadow, to prevent them from falling unconscious or becoming injured by the thorns or the pebbles on the forest's paths. Lost in madness, the gopis inquired about Krishna to Braja's trees, thinking that the tall pilu trees or the huge banyan trees, they must have seen him. They must have seen him. They questioned them first. They said, "Have you seen Krishna? Did he pass this way? Did you see him walk by? Has he by any chance touched you? Oh, where has he gone? Where has he gone?" The trees remained silent. Tell us! Tell us! Why won't you tell us? Why are you silent? Why are you cheating us? And then they turned their attention to the flower-bearing trees. You must have seen him. You must have seen him. Otherwise, how could you be blossoming like this in such a stunned condition? The flowering trees also remained silent. We should approach Tulsi. Being female, she will sympathize with us. Then they asked Tulsi, "Oh, auspicious Tulsi, has Madhava come this way here? Kindly tell us where we can find him. Where we can find him." When they heard no response, they thought, "She's Krishna's beloved, so she too refuses to answer. He must have told her not to talk to us." Then the Gopis, who had lost all awareness of the outside world, inquired from the deer and the cuckoo and a swarm of bees and a flock of chakora birds nearby. Distressed and wrapped in thoughts of him, they entered into a state wherein they thought that they had become him. In other words, they became so absorbed in remembering Krishna, they were so absorbed in remembering him, that they felt that they were him. Reaching the limit of madness, their distress vanished, and Krishna personally entered into their hearts to enact pastimes. Some of the gopis boldly vanquished demons, and others played with gopa friends, and some depicted Krishna lifting Giriraj. And then one gopi attracted all the others by loudly proclaiming, "O beautiful and chaste women, what may I do for you? Why have you come here? The night is so frightening. Now you have seen me in the forest. Go home. What more is there to see?" And then, after imitating this most recent exchange, that gopi said, "Now I will disappear." But before she could enact Krishna's disappearance, their identification with Krishna broke. And once more, they opened their eyes and they continued to search in every direction. When they became almost hopeless, they unexpectedly discovered the marks of Krishna's footprints in the ground of the forest. They stopped and carefully examined the impressions. And then, following them for some distance, to their surprise and their dismay, they saw another set of footprints intermingled with his. Whose footprints are these? Whose footprints are these? Earlier, when Krishna noticed Radha's disappearance, he went to find her. Without her, the Rasa dance was meaningless. And although she was no longer with him, although she was no longer with them, Yogamaya had prevented the gopis from noticing her absence. And now, seeing these footprints, they guessed that this particular gopi must be so dear to Krishna that he took her with him and left them all behind. Greatly disturbed, they followed the impressions, and as they did so, they pointed out various signs indicating that Krishna had shown special favor to this particular gopi. Unbeknown to them, while Radha and Krishna were together, Radhika began to consider her friends who had been deprived of Krishna's association. She thought, I will play a little trick so that the Lord of my life will move slightly away from me and they will be able to also come. So she spoke to Krishna and she said, "Oh, Krishna, I am completely fatigued. I am so tired, I cannot go any further. Would you kindly carry me?" And as she spoke to Krishna, he noticed the gopis who were coming towards them. And he thought, if they see us alone together, they will become very envious of Radha, and everything will be spoiled. There will be no rasa dance. Thinking in this way, he said, "Yes, kindly get onto my shoulder." And as she climbed onto his shoulders, he suddenly disappeared, leaving her sitting in the dust of Vrindavan. When he left Radha alone, her grief was so great. She was crying and crying and crying. "Oh, Krishna, where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" Now, Radha was also left alone. And the gopis found her full of grief, having been also neglected by Krishna. They sat all around her, and she told them everything that had happened. And as they listened, their hearts softened in great astonishment. Then, placing Radha in the front, they continued to search. Entering into the dark forest by the rays of the moon, they soon found themselves engulfed in darkness. And sadly, they returned to the bank of the river Jamuna, understanding that they could not find him, and he would only come when he was ready. The gopis sat together as one, and they sang with all their hearts. Krishna was very eager to hear them express their deepest feelings of love. Generally, the gopis were very shy, and they would not express themselves directly to Krishna. But now they sang and they cried, and they sang and they cried like a child crying for mother. Their beautifully composed song is the essence of love in separation, and could melt even a heart of stone. How can that sweetness be described? Their song gradually became a sorrowful lament. Their soft voices shattered the hearts of the trees and the creepers. Pretending to be indifferent, Krishna could no longer tolerate their condition. He emerged from the dense thicket with tears flowing from his eyes. Covered by his effulgence, he came and silently sat down. Due to his haste, his yellow cloth was falling, so he placed it around his neck as if to show that he was begging forgiveness. Conscious that he had given great suffering to them, he admitted himself as an offender. One gopi's beautiful eyes saw him first. She was so stunned that she could only utter, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," in a very sweet voice. Krishna's return brought life back into their bodies. Their dearest, dearest friend was now before them. The gopis stared at him with wide open eyes. Forgetting their distress, they stood up and ran to him like rivers flowing to the ocean. They felt as if they had attained their life's goal, and each gopi displayed affection in her own way. Standing at a distance, one very angry gopi glared at him. She tried to fire arrows at him from her eyes. Although he remained unwounded, the arrows troubled him. Krishna cast his full glance upon that gopi who glared at him. Who can describe the extraordinary nature of the love of that extraordinary gopi, Srimati Radharani? Then, after gently placing flower garlands around all their necks, Krishna and the gopis went to the bank of the Jamuna, where the moonlight dissipated the darkness and the fragrant flowers were all blooming. And once again, Yogamaya dressed those beautiful girls in fine garments just suitable for dancing. And Krishna also was dressed for dancing. Then he anointed each one of them with kumkum. And in this way, he drove away their suffering. While Krishna was conversing with them, the gopis began to consider what had just taken place. They thought, Krishna put us in a very unfortunate circumstance. We should ask him why he did it. Now these girls were far too cultured to ask Krishna such a question directly. So they thought together and they decided to ask him a question. So one gopi inquired. On behalf of all of them, she said, Dear Krishna, we are ordinary village girls. We do not know much about Vedic knowledge, what is right, what is wrong. We therefore put a question to you. Since you are so learned, kindly answer it properly. In dealings, especially in loving dealings, there are three different kinds of people, three classes of men. One reciprocates the same amount of love that is shown to them. The second one responds favorably no matter what quality of love is shown to them. And the third one never reciprocates with love in any way. Which class do you prefer? And which one do you consider honest? Indirectly, the gopis were asking whether Krishna was a motivated lover or an unmotivated lover or a callous ruffian. Krishna looked at the girls and smiled, and then he replied, "Oh dear slender-waisted girls, people who show equal affection for one another, they only benefit themselves, and actually they're selfish. Indeed, if they did not expect the reward, they would not reciprocate at all. So such people, they're like shopkeepers. And then there are those who, like parents, are naturally affectionate, and they serve even when those who they're serving fail to reciprocate. Finally, there are individuals who are either self-satisfied, materially fulfilled, ungrateful, or simply envious. They will not love even those who love them." Then Krishna explained. He said, my dear girls, I am none of those categories. If you want to know why I did not reciprocate when you worshipped me, then listen very attentively to my answer and hold it in your hearts forever. I do not immediately respond to those who love me because I want to intensify their love. Just like a poor man who has gained some wealth and he loses it, he can think of nothing else. Nothing more is interesting to him. I do not display this immediate response because then they become deeply absorbed in remembering me. In my absence, I acted only to increase attachment. Some people think that I wish to create calamities for my devotees. These complaints bring me great sorrow. Then Krishna spoke further, and he said, in truth, what I have just said is not for you. It is for the ordinary person. I know what you are. As there is no one superior to me, there is no love superior to yours. I am so much obliged to you that I can never treat you like ordinary devotees. As Krishna spoke, the gopis listened very carefully. I can never leave you. Even though I vanished from your sight, I was watching your display of loving separation. I could not take my eyes off you. There is no one like you, and nor will there ever be. I acted in this way to show all devotees the depth of your love. I have caused you so much pain. Forgive me for hurting you. And then Krishna spoke the highest truth. He spoke the highest truth. I am unable to repay you. I am unable to repay my debt to you for your spotless service. Therefore, please, let your glorious deeds be your remuneration. And then, with folded hands and tears of love, Krishna bowed down and touched his head to the divine lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, who sat silently listening. Now everything was ready. Everyone was ready. The enchanter of the whole creation began his pastime of the Rasa dance in order to fill those gopis' hearts with endless joy. The Rasa Leela is a festival full of music, singing, dancing, merrymaking, and wonderful food in the form of eternal bliss. Even Lakshmi Devi greedily hankers to achieve these pastimes, but she cannot. the gopis held each other's hands tightly and formed a huge circle around Krishna. They were still afraid that he might leave. Krishna said, we should form a circle, and although I will stand in the middle with Radhika, I will also remain beside each one of you. So the gopis formed circle upon circle upon circle on the Jamuna's bank in a beautiful smooth place, free of mud or grass or any other impediments. And seeing this, Krishna's mind became fully satisfied. The Rasa circle, it looked like a huge golden earring decorating the ear of the goddess of the earth, or like a shimmering giant golden bangle around the full moon of Krishna. Even today, this dance has not come to an end. Krishna thought to himself, these gopis are like a beautiful sparkling necklace of gold. If there were a central emerald jewel between each one of them, it would be most attractive. One fair gopi, one dark Krishna. One fair gopi, one dark Krishna. This combination was repeated hundreds of thousands of times in that Rasa circle. Their beautiful eyes were wide. Their bangles jingled as they danced to different gaits. The rhythmic jangling of their anklets and their other ornaments attracted the demigods to appear in the sky in their aeroplanes. And being themselves experts in singing, dancing, and music, the demigods began to play different instruments while Krishna and the gopis danced with great enthusiasm. Unlimited demigods and their wives in celestial aeroplanes witnessed this dance while hanging in the sky. They played all kinds of tunes and melodies to increase the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. Astonishingly, the fury of the dancing did not raise even one speck of dust. The presiding deities of music and dance all attained their expertise in these arts after long practice, but they could not keep up with Radha's proficiency in playing, singing, or dance. Her skill is not the result of practice, and nor is it a result of a show of expertise and learning. Radha's impeccable qualities are eternally present and eternally perfect. Her natural perfection far exceeds all the famous women in creation. Then Mukunda, swelling with pride, performed a solo dance. Wearing a peacock feather on his head, he showered the Rasa arena with a cloud burst of happiness. After many hours of singing and dancing, the gopis and Krishna rested on the cool, camphor white sand along the river Jamuna. A gentle breeze carried the fragrance of the lotuses and a blissful clamor of cranes and swans. To dispel the gopis' fatigue, they entered into the Jamuna like a lordly elephant and his consorts. They made a circle around Krishna and they splashed him by holding their hands together. And then he furiously splashed all the gopis who pretended to be afraid and giggled while jumping and running. When they came out of the water, a soft breeze was blowing, which carried the fragrance of different flowers. And strolling along the bank of the Jamuna in the soothing autumn moonlight, Krishna recited various kinds of poetry, and the gopis sang along. Meanwhile, the moon appeared like a silver ship traveling from one continent to another on the ocean of the sky. Caught by the counter winds of the Rasa Leela, that ship could not move forward for a long time. But when the Rasa Leela ended, the ship began to move gently forward and soon arrived at its destination in the west. The moon and the stars slowly disappeared, and that long night, feeling very sorrowful due to impending separation from the Lord, became ready to give up his life. The gopis had feared that moment when they would be separated from Krishna. Hearing the warbling birds, Krishna and the gopis knew that dawn was near. Somehow, they had the power to return home to their so-called husbands, who did not find any fault with them, for Yogamaya had made duplicates of all the gopis, and so their husbands took them to be their wives. But Radha felt the worst kind of torment, being separated from Krishna. Externally, the Rasa Leela dance festival had come to an end, but it did not end within the gopis' hearts. They always thought of these pastimes, and therefore the Rasa dance always manifest before their eyes. This perfectly pure, fully transcendental Rasa Leela pastime is eternally going on, even though it is invisible. Sri Krishna displayed this astonishing pastime in this world just to bestow mercy upon the materialistic souls who are trying to enjoy here. Sukadeva Goswami concludes this episode of the Rasa Leela by pointing out that if a person hears from the right source about the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis, he will be relieved of the most dangerous type of disease, namely lust. Anyone who faithfully hears or describes Krishna's Rasa Leela with the Gopis will attain inestimable good fortune. Krishna came just to attract them to his world. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
everyone again, all together. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
and again, all together, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
One more time, all together, everyone. Hare
Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Nitai Gaur Hare Ba Hare Ba Hare Ba Gaur Hare Ba Hare Ba
Hare Bol
Nitai Gaur Hare Ba Hare Ba Hare Ba Gaur Hare Ba Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada
Prabhupada Śrīmad Bhāgavatam
Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada
Prabhupada
Nitai Gaur Hare Ba Hare Ba Hare Ba Gaur Hare Ba Hare Ba
Now it's time for questions and answers. So here are your questions. Now, there's 3 questions that I want you to discuss. First, are you ready? What's your name?
Arya.
Arya? So find a group of 3 or 4 people and discuss the first question, what you appreciated most in this time we had together. Second, what you would like to take with you. We discussed this point at the end of my talk. And third, how you could possibly take it with you when you enter the rest of your life. So 3 questions. First, what did you most appreciate? Second, we have to have so much patience during these kind of things. Okay. Can I hold that? Hare Krishna. So the first question, who remembers the first question? That's the first question. I couldn't understand one word of that. Okay, Krishna. Krishna knows everything.
What we appreciated.
Appreciated the most. Second question? Yes.
What we take with us.
See, they're trained. They raise their hands. Only adults. What would you like to take with you? And yes, Prabhu.
What you can take with you for your day-to-day life.
Yes, and how you can do that, practically speaking, when you enter the world. Okay, discuss. Find a group. 2, 3, 4 people. And if you find yourself all alone, talk to someone else. No, you have to talk to people. You have to come up here or anyone. We are not moving. You need a third person. Join this group over here. Okay. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Who knows the rest of the mantra? Well, I did better at stopping all the talking with that one than I did with that I did earlier. Very good, thank you. Now, who would like to say, just please raise your hand, like to say what they found most inspiring? One thing. Just one thing. Yes?
Your association.
Oh, you can't take it home. I'm embarrassed. Okay, who else would like to say something different? Raise your hand. Yes.
For the first time in this retreat,
Everyone, so we can hear. Yes.
when you asked us to offer something beautiful to Krishna,
Yes.
the most beautiful thing that we think of.
Yes.
And I've offered in my mind before, but I've never offered the most beautiful thing.
Yes.
So I thought that was very, very special at that time.
Yes.
And when I offered in my mind, it was so nice and I felt so happy that when we came back to the class, I'm like, oh, I think I want to go back there and offer again.
Well, you can.
So that's what I found
But you
most
can't.
inspiring.
But you can.
Every day.
Yeah. Okay, what time are you going to do it every day?
I have this thing I do every morning when I wake up. I try to make the first thing I think of when I wake up, before I even open my eyes, I try to make it Krishna.
Yes.
I put that as something, a focus. So now
Yes.
what I'm going to do is, when I wake up in the morning with Krishna in my mind, the first thing I think of, I'm going to try also to offer something.
Yes.
To Rasa.
Yeah. So, anyone else like to say?
I was getting excited about the blessings and the benedictions. So at the start you were saying how it's such a blessing for all of us to be here, and you feel that from,
Do you feel blessed?
yeah, definitely. And then knowing, the amazing benefits of just listening to the pastimes, when you become free from masking, there's that benefit. So you know that whenever those desires arise in your heart, you can go back to those pastimes and think about them. In a sweet way, actually.
Humbly. Thank you. Anyone else like to say? Yes.
The association with all you people in this amazing place.
Appreciate it. Yeah. What's your name?
Ari,
And where are you from?
Ocean Grove.
Okay. Do you know what Ari means?
In Hebrew it means lions.
Lion.
Yeah.
You should tell the truth. Don't be lying. Yeah. He's lion. Lion is the king of the jungle. And lion in Sanskrit is also Hare. which is the name of Krishna. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says that he made the lion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu destroy the elephants of my offenses. Thank you very much. Nice devotees, yes? Thank you. Anyone else like to say something? Excuse me, I didn't hear you. I only heard the wah, wah. Is there more that you wanted to say? Maybe not. Okay, accept that. Anyone else like to say anything?
I do have a question.
I guess that's something. I have to say, yes. If it's simple.
Might be, I don't know. Something has been bothering me ever since we finished the talk about Kamsa being killed by Krishna and attaining Krishna's form. And I wondered, when he goes, this means he's gone to the spiritual world, correct? Won't he still be envious in the spiritual world? No. Can you explain that to me?
You mean where his envy went?
Where he's, like what happened? So he's liberated, he's now liberated.
But liberated means liberated from envy. And liberated from all the bars or the shackles of material existence, such as envy, such as anger, basically the three modes of material nature. Are you familiar with the three modes of material nature? So it means liberated from the binding forces of material nature, then the soul is free from that. So then the question is, what does the soul do when he's free? Just like a prisoner. He's thinking, I want to be free, I want to be free, I want to be free from... But once you're free, you have to do something. So what does someone like Kamsa do when he's free? And he attains the spiritual world, and the basic thing that everyone in the spiritual world does is serve. And interestingly enough, that's the basic thing everyone does in the material world too. It's just unavoidable. For Sanatana Dharma, we serve. But he serves the Supreme Lord with devotion, because it's natural. So once the coverings, liberated from the coverings, the shackles of material existence, then there's serving according to who we really are. Wouldn't it be nice to be really us? Us who's really us, not the us who's not really us. Even though it sounds a little confusing. But to be really us. Because everyone is longing to be who they naturally are, actually are. But the problem is we don't have the right concepts and we have too many shackles around us. So when we go to the countryside, sometimes for like a vacation of some sort, then the modes of passion go down, and the modes of ignorance go down, and the mode of goodness comes up. And then we can relax a little bit and we feel so much more satisfied just being peaceful, basically. And that's the mode of goodness, what to speak of when all the modes of material nature are removed and we are actually us. You know, one time Prabhupada, there's one very old devotee who left, and then he came back, and this devotee has long ago passed away because he couldn't stay in the association of devotees due to some of his bad habits. But he was with Prabhupada at 26th Avenue in the very early days, and Prabhupada told him, what would you like to do in the spiritual world? What would you like to be? And he gave a humble answer, you know, I don't know, whatever Krishna wants, like that. And Prabhupada said, no, you should know what you want to be. That's intriguing. Do you know what you would like to be in the spiritual world? Huh? A Gopa. They don't cry as much as the Gopis, yeah? Do you know what you would like to be? But sometimes it's a secret you don't have to say. It's something to think about. You can't be Sharmasundar, okay? You understand? Yeah. I once had that realization. There was where is it? Sorry if I've mentioned this 1,000 times before, but it was because of that photo, that painting in the background. I had a copy of this painting right in that corner, and the full painting was of Krishna, and he was surrounded by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cows. And into the background there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cows. And I looked at it, and I thought, Krishna has hundreds and thousands of cows, and millions, countless cows. And he has countless Gopa friends, and countless parents, and countless gopis. And then I thought, and all the top positions are filled. And then I thought, maybe I'm in the wrong movement. But all we could ever be is an insignificant servant. How does that make you feel? In one sense, it's such a relief, because that's all we're struggling so hard to be something other than what we are. And the mystery of it is when you serve Krishna, for serving Krishna's dear ones, you serve Krishna directly too, and you experience that. Because in the spiritual realm there is no envy, and there is no... Everyone wants to do what's pleasing to Krishna. I once saw a drama in Vrindavan. Somehow I was invited to some like Rasa Leela presentation. And in it, Radha and Krishna were sitting on a throne. And the gopis were performing a drama of Krishna's pastimes with Radha. And the pastime was so pleasing that they were performing. This was the drama that I saw, and in the drama there was a drama. Clear? Yeah. So Radha and Krishna, who were sitting on the throne, after the drama was over, Srimati Radharani was so pleased at hearing the glories of Krishna. And she said to the other gopis, whatever you want, I'm so happy. Whatever you want, I will give you. Whatever you want, I will award you with. And in the drama, the gopis said, give us Sham. And I immediately thought, whoops, this is not our philosophy. This is not our philosophy, to separate Sisi Radha from Madhava so that we can... It's just not our philosophy. Bhaktivedanta Thakur explains that the happiness of a devotee, even on that level, is to bring Radha and Krishna together, because Krishna is the center. Because Krishna is the center. And there is one very important verse from the 8th chapter of, not one important verse, there are all so many important verses, from the 8th chapter of Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Who knows what that chapter is entitled? What is it about? Yes. It's the Bengali title is Ramananda Samvad, or the conversation between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it is a very intimate chapter and it's very wonderful. So in the chapter, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has Ramananda Roy describe, he asks him questions about the highest, and he says, no, I want something more high. And the whole Gaudiya philosophy is revealed by Ramananda Roy. And then it speaks about very intimate topics, Radha and Krishna. And the Rasa, or the relationship between Radha and Krishna, very intimate. I mean, not intimate, but it describes it. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy how to attain this. And then Ramananda Roy explains how to nourish this. And he explains something very, very, very wonderful. I won't just add more and more very, 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 I'll just tell you what it is. But it struck me very deeply. Because the question is how to nourish. And actually, I'm not going to tell you this right now. I'm going to wait a minute because Mataji wants to say something. And yes, that's the microphone's in your hand. And I would like to, because I wanted to end with this because it's so, I hope I didn't ruin what you wanted to say. Anyway, I'll find out about it later. You wanted to talk.
Oh.
So, but
yes.
remind me that I wanted to tell you this one thing.
Yes, the one thing that I was reflecting on when I was reading this pastime and preparing it was that how Bhagavad Gita, of course, as we know, is our essential basic alphabet. We say that Bhagavad Gita is very important because it's basic, and basic usually means it's not that important. It's just kind of, sort of there. But basic means like you think A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All your communication, all your reading, all your learning, all your understanding is based on these syllables. So they're essential. That's how they're basic. So in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 15, we hear Krishna describing to Arjuna this imperishable banyan tree. And he compares the material world to a tree that's growing upside down. And when I'm talking to, because I like trees a lot, when I'm talking to people about trees, I always ask them, have they ever seen a tree that's growing upside down? And because I'm usually talking to people who are not from India, because there they might have seen a tree that's growing upside down, they usually look quite puzzled and they say, no, maybe in India. But no, I've never seen a tree growing upside down. And then you show them a picture, which I remember one time taking a picture in Mayapur at the Chaitanya Mat. There they have a Radhakund and a Shyamakund, which is like a small lake. And the trees on the bank of the lake, and it was a very still, quiet day. And when I got the picture developed and brought it home, I could not tell which was up and which was down, because the water was so still that it perfectly reflected what was above. And I had to look at it for a long time to figure out this is up and this is down. So the world in which we live, it's this reflection. And when you get this concept very clear in your heads, it's much, much easier to select wisely as you go through your life in Krishna consciousness. Because everything in the reflection is in the real tree. There's nothing in the reflection, cannot be, that's not in the real tree. And the real tree is substantially real. And the reflection, as you see on a windy day, the water ripples and it looks distorted and it doesn't look anything like the tree. But the reality is, the reflection is a reflection of the reality. So Srila Prabhupada points out very carefully that one should not, for example, hear about this Rasa Lila pastime from an impersonalist. Because an impersonalist means that he does not know about the real tree. So when you hear about Krishna and he's dancing with the Gopis, if you don't understand that this is spiritual, then it increases one's desire to act improperly here in this world, because that's all there is. They don't have the right conception in place. But when you have the complete conception, you begin to see that, oh, everything that people are doing here that we see as distracting them, causing them to forget Krishna, they're dancing with young men and women and this and that and so on. Everything here, it's there but in pure perfection. And that's why it is said that if you hear this rasa dance properly from a correct source, which of course in this case is Srila Prabhupada, then you understand that this reflection, it's not going to get me anywhere. I have to work my way through it, but I have to keep my mind on the fact that there's a reality to all of this. And then it's not as if the emphasis is on renunciation or even detachment. The emphasis is on to transfer your understanding to the fact that I want to serve Krishna and thereby to enjoy. Because it's our nature to enjoy. Sat Chit Ananda. This Ananda principle, it always has to win out. We're seeking enjoyment. And Prabhupada said we should seek in the right place and we will find the enjoyment that's eluding us in the murky water of the material reflection. So this is our challenge in life, to make our way up out of the water, out of the reflected image, and into the wholeness of the beauty and the fullness and the pleasure and the interactions, the laughing, joking, everything that exists within transcendence. And it's only because perhaps we have lingering impersonal concepts given to us through our own attempts to understand things, or through friends, or through different processes that we've taken up, that we have a barrier between us and this reality, this spiritual reality. And as we move towards it, that becomes less and less strong, and more we see, yes, I want to learn here in this world the basics of service, so that I can remove that spirit of trying to enjoy the false tree, and I can actually enter into the loving enjoyment, which is Krishna consciousness. So this is the topmost pastime, because what's the topmost thing that people are interested in? It's men and women and this and that and romance, and you can't sell a car without some beautiful girl has to be there, or every movie has to have a love scene, otherwise it's only for children. And so we see this all around us. It's called Adi Ras, the original Ras, because it is the Ras of Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world. So take this to heart and you will make quick internal spiritual advancement.
Okay, so we'll end here.
I thought you had something to say.
I was just to see if anyone remembers. I do have something to say. Please listen carefully. Because the question that's asked is how you nourish rasa, or your relationship with Krishna. So for devotees, that is the essential question, how to nourish that. Nourish it so it will grow. So Ramananda Roy says, talking on a very high level between Krishna and the Gopis and Radharani, the happiness of, there is an inexplicable fact. What does inexplicable mean? You can't explain this fact. It's part of their very nature. There is an ununderstandable, inexplicable fact about the natural inclination of the Gopis. The Gopis never want to enjoy themselves with Krishna personally. The happiness of the Gopis increases 10 million times when they serve to engage Sri Sri Radha and Krishna in their transcendental pastimes. To bring together Radha and Krishna, they get more pleasure, and they don't want to enjoy Krishna personally. So then there's some very, very sweet things that I'm not going to read. But then, although the Gopis, Srimati Radharani's friends, do not desire to enjoy themselves directly with Krishna, Srimati Radharani makes a great endeavor to induce Krishna to enjoy himself with the Gopis. So the gopis are trying to bring Radha and Krishna together, and they get so much happiness from that, not by themselves being the object of Krishna's enjoyment, because they know that Radharani can give Krishna so much more pleasure than they can. There's no envy on their part. Although the gopis, Srimati Radharani's friends, do not desire to enjoy themselves directly with Krishna, Srimati Radharani makes a great endeavor to induce Krishna to enjoy himself with the gopis. At such times, Radharani enjoys a happiness 10 million times greater than that enjoyed through direct association. So, this is the ideal of the Krishna consciousness movement. Let me facilitate others' advancement and being with Krishna. And now listen to this verse. This is the verse I was thinking about. This is the Bengali. Anyonye vasudha preme kore rasa pushta. That means that amongst each other, pure love is nourished, rasa pushta is nourished in the way that has just been described, by bringing others closer to Krishna. That is what nourishes our own love for Krishna. Not pushing ourselves forward, but helping others go forward. And then this second part of the verse explains exactly why this is rasa pushta, it nourishes rasa. Tan sabara preme deke. When Krishna sees the devotees free from envy and helping the love of Krishna that they have is demonstrated free from envy by helping others move forward towards Krishna, thinking that that's going to give Krishna the most happiness. Tan sabara, Krishna seeing this preme, this loving dealing, deke, seeing this loving dealing, Krishna hoya tushta. He becomes satisfied. Look how much these devotees love me, that they're always thinking about my pleasure, and they know that this is what gives me pleasure, this loving dealings amongst the devotees. Because then he becomes satisfied. And then, when Krishna is satisfied, then rasa pushta. Then our own love for Krishna is nourished. It's by Krishna's satisfaction. So, take that home with you. In other words, it's we're servants. And when we're free from, and only really when we're free from envy can we serve in a way that is fully satisfying to Krishna. And that means serving the devotees. This is true in this world, and it is true in Goloka Vrindavan. Because it takes love, and Prabhupada said this, if you want to, the circumstance when he said it was near the end of his life, and the devotees asked Prabhupada, who were with him in Vrindavan, should we tell all the devotees to come? And because the devotees love you, they'll all want to come to see you in these difficult times and be with you, because they love you. And Prabhupada's reply was very famous, and he said, the test of how much they love me will be if they cooperate after. And that is the most difficult thing, practically speaking. let me assist someone's serving Krishna. So Prabhupada, in his own way, in his own words, put that principle in there. And sometimes we use that, when we want someone to do what we want them to do. Prabhupada said, you have to cooperate with guess who? But, of course, this is ideal, but this is what will turn our society into the ideal that we all are hoping and that we all would love it to be. A cooperative society of devotees assisting each other in serving, and this is pleasing to Krishna. And he says that the Gopis experience 10,000 times more pleasure by bringing Radha and Krishna together than if they went to Krishna. And then Srila Ramananda Roy says, but even more astounding than that is that Radharani feels 10,000 times more pleasure when she arranges the Gopis to be with Krishna. It's just mutual. And that envyless society of residents of Vrindavan, when they're only thinking of what's Krishna's pleasure, what will bring Krishna pleasure, satisfies Krishna. Because how do you satisfy he who is all attractive and has unlimited cows and unlimited cowherd boyfriends and unlimited cowherd girlfriends and unlimited universes? Now, what are you going to do that satisfies him? And here is what that is. And that will not only satisfy Krishna, but because it will satisfy Krishna, it will satisfy each and every one of us. Hare Krishna. Well, Krishna, could you tell everyone it's over? It's time for prasadam, because they won't listen to me. No? But do it not gently. You have to be very gently. Thank you very much for your association. It was so nice being here.
Thank you very much for your association.
And I think it might be time for us to have the happiness of together relishing Krishna Prasadam.
I think it's time for relishing the Krishna Prasadam.
Yes. Abhi? Okay. Okay. Good night. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.